All right, let's get into the final week of the quarter. Let's go through this week, this month, this quarter on the higher time frames down. We're going to talk about DXY, EU, GU. I'm going to go on to my overall results as well. Talk about the funded accounts, challenge accounts. But yeah, first of all, I want to wish you guys that you had a great month and a great quarter. Overall, I think you should be in profit in the quarter. If you have started the year not in profit, I would seriously look at where you've gone wrong, because you've had 3 months to execute. You've had 3 months to do well. Even I've had 2 negative months in that quarter and still come out in profit. There's a lot to learn from your own trading, and make sure that before you watch my videos, review your own trading, because that's more important at the end of the day. I'm just entertainment. I'm just here for people to view to see if they can relate to me. As for the results, we can see here this month, my worst month I've had since trading this strategy. Really nothing to catch. I don't look back as a higher time frame trader, especially after the first 2 or 3 days of the month, and go, yeah, obviously missed loads of moves, because we saw such strong volume at the start of the month, which I had the opposite direction bias, so I did not catch that move. Coming into the rest of the month, we have low volume daily candles, and I am predominantly a higher time frame trader. There is medium time frame trades I take, of course, but it's all based on a daily bias, and that makes it hard sometimes when there's not really been a daily bias for a couple of weeks, I wouldn't say. If we go to the accounts, no trades this week. Sometimes it's better to sit out. Obviously, I've not traded since 17th of March. We're definitely looking slow. I have took trades on fibers and FTMO just to keep the accounts running, so they may look different slightly to the previous week, but overall they're exactly the same. Down 3.7% on 200k funded account, and we're up nearly 2% on the challenge. Down 1.75% on the fibers, so a win will give me a withdrawal. Funded next, we're down 3 trades, and we're down 2% on Think Capital here. The only reason why I show you this is to prove that I haven't took trades. It's alright me saying there's been no trades, but I need to show you guys the balances to actually see that. If we go on to the week, so here we want to go break down the higher time frames. I'm very excited for this month to be over, because I knew from the very start, when we saw the injection of dollar weakness, we were going to see a slow month. It's only natural, a monthly candle can only move so far. Do you know what I'm saying? And with that being said, we have to look at what we did. So at the very, very start of the month, we saw a big push down within the first 3 daily candles. And after that, up to this point, at the end of last week, we've just been consolidating. Like, we have potentially changed structure to the upside, which we'll speak about in a minute. With the weekly candles, we've cleared liquidity. So I think it's important to look at the zoom out picture on DXY. We can see overall, DXY has been predominantly bullish. We've seen a pullback. We've seen a little bit of inducement liquidity grabs to come up. We made a further high. So really, we're bullish. We're going to try and take out this high. Not that it will, but we can see price previously used 101 and 100 as resistance. We're now holding above it with support. Therefore, at the minute, I don't expect price to start going back below 100. And really, I'm still bullish overall on DXY. With that being said, if we were to fib up the weekly, because these are all the things that I'm thinking, I want to show you guys the full thought process that I go through every day to see where I'm doing things right and doing things wrong. Not to say that every time I mark something up, this is correct, but I would look at this as a weekly fib, and I would say the further down price comes into this area, especially after taking internal liquidity, coming into POIs on the weekly, there's higher chances we're going to come up. Even if we're going to carry on down with the lower high, lower low structure, yeah, we're probably going to come and fill the fair value gap low there, or come into the order block, which may give us a continuation. We're unlikely to just drop all the way down. So with that weekly close last week, I said, okay, the weekly candle, it's got about a 40 pip body. It's very, very weak, but we have failed to hold below 104. I'm really expecting further upside. We create a nice weekly wick, unmitigated wick. I'd like to see price come down into this and see further upside. We know we're in a big daily and weekly gap, so we know that we can reject at any point to continue downside. And whilst, yeah, I'm overall bullish, we need to see structural breaks daily, weekly to get the more bullish idea. We're seeing it on the daily, not in terms of higher lows, but we're seeing breaks of structure. I've marked that up there. This high that failed at this weekly, which is the weekly here, where we previously had an issue in November, we can see now that we've come into it twice and bounced off it, broke the lower high, so we've seen a break of structure. Price can just run up. Price also can retest 104 and go up. Price can also come deeper and then go up. My idea, based on the previous weekly closes, although there could be a chance, there's always that possibility, we could come and take the lows out and go up. I was more looking at price coming into that unmitigated wick and then seeing a further push with a high to test. So that was my safer option. And that was what I was looking for on a daily time frame. Definitely something to note. We haven't got any daily POIs. We've only got weekly, which what suggests to me, like the whole month has been after the first 3 days, we have not seen any clear bullish price action to the point at which we've created POIs, which in itself is liquidity to carry on. So you could also just see price run straight down, because this could just be a liquidity grab and then we could come into this daily POI and drop. But obviously you've got to have a bias, and that was my bias, to see a pullback and then a continuation. And if we go on to EU, higher time frame, similar. We saw such a big push at the start of the month. You already knew that it was kind of unfortunate that we saw that, because unless you had the buy move for the start of the month and you held trades maybe up to this internal liquidity, then you're probably not going to win. If we look at the higher time frames, it's tricky, because this push down was so strong and I don't think we're coming back to them lows, which means, you know, maybe we could see price come and fill this imbalance and continue up, but that doesn't really align with DXY. The analysis against DXY, which would be EU, I should in theory be expecting price to carry on down, which it could, but obviously where we're at right now, we really are within this leg, I would say, on the weekly, and we're coming into the premium. So we are in the best position for downside in that instance if we fail to come down within these areas here past 1.02500, sorry. So that's what I'll be looking at. I think it's important to note there was so much going on here. With the weekly closure, we're now seeing, can we get the monthly break in 107.5 and then obviously playing next monthly range. We've engulfed, we've seen a break of previous weekly low, we've broke previous weekly high and rejected within this weekly fair value gap. We took out internal liquidity, and of course 109, getting way too ahead of myself, 109 was a clear rejection level. Obviously moving this down, you can see the taps into around this area. So really I'm not expecting price to go up unless we test 107.5, and looking back, something I could have learned from how we're looking on the daily to potentially suggest we're not going to see price giving us a top wick, because I had set positions from us making a top wick, was what was going on the daily. We topped out here, failing at POIs. As a result of failing at this order block, price needs to come back to a daily. My strategy on the higher time frames is predominantly based on that in itself. If we're failing multiple times to a daily POI, especially with double topping out, we're expecting price to come back into this daily before we see upside. So yeah, really at this point I am expecting price to go down. What were the signs looking back that we were just going to carry on to this level? Was Thursday's candle. Thursday's candle come into this higher low, the low of the higher low, that allowed us to carry on and make a high. Friday broke Thursday's low, closed back below the higher low, suggesting that we did trickle down, suggesting really we could head down to here before we get a pullback. Looking back, that's where I'm starting to understand the price action a little bit better. That being said, still set higher time frame entries around this wick. Had one around here, and I had two positions set. I had one with a smaller stop loss. I had about a 25 pip stop, looking to play down into the daily POI. So one position set around here to play to here, and I had another one based on a 4 hour, fibbing up the 4 hour leg, looking at getting in around, I think it was around the 4 hour fill. So I had overlapping positions. If one ended up losing, I'd have another one set. And that was still, again, not the biggest of stop loss. I think it was about 35. So I was looking at these two positions for the week. This first one actually got very close to getting tagged in, about 20 pips out. But I think looking back, because of what we saw here and what we saw within the 4-hour time frame before we start the week, is we saw price reject off this. We created a high and then we induced that because we failed to come up overall and also come down. We failed to come down first, we induced it, failed to come up, made a further low. So I think it just looked clear for price to head down, but I'm not at that level again. You know, I can be a funded trader, it doesn't mean I'm at that level to feel confident to execute on them positions yet. And it's going to come with time. But now reading that, it made more sense to not see a top wick. And how big of a top wick? Well, you've got no daily POIs, so really, are you going to see that? Again, you could argue until we see a lower high, we're bullish. And if some traders want to see that lower high, then you're still not ready to sell it yet. But I think looking back, lower time frame, that move made sense. This is just an idea that I set up this morning. Still liking GU downside. The idea maybe will come in next week. Again, I'm just marking up entries. Monthly time frame. We can see here from the lows that we've pushed up start of the month. Coming into 130 last week, we could see how we reacted at that. What we're seeing here is a lot of uncertainty. What we're seeing within this weekly wick here is this is the liquidity point and this is the wick. Price has had double weekly tap into it. This week has also come into it in the end. We're going to remove that week. So yeah, looking at GU on the higher time frames, we saw a weak bearish candle. There's no strong downside confirmation, which is confirmed by the fact, if you go on the daily, we never broke my trend transition, which means there has been no breaker structure to the downside, which means sells are going to become very difficult. Until we see that, it's very hard to take them sells back into daily POIs, because ultimately we could just whip back into this, come up, clear the highs, break through 130 and take this liquidity out. So it's very hard to call downside on GU. If you trade in both EU and GU, I would have said your sells on EU just made so much more sense. It was much clearer to take on that basis on the higher time frames. Obviously, you know, if you guys are trading 15, 5 minute, you could be taking buys on these pairs and winning. So it's not really for that if that's what you trade. So yeah, going into the week, let's see if our analysis played out. What we saw on Monday on DXY was a 104 retest. We can see here we had 3 failures to break, candle break, retest, continue. We're now coming into this daily POI. So I'm looking at this POI and I'm looking at how we're reacting it. Are we seeing closures in it? Are we going to come up to 50% and fill it? Are we going to fail at it? So this is the building up the bigger picture. On EU, we can see Monday wicked up and continued down. If we go onto the 1 hour, we in fact, to be honest, held this range clear because, like I said before, this high that we formed here formed this low. This low failed to clear this low, which made that an inducement. We then took that out. We then formed a new low. This is your 1 hour leg. Price come in, tapped into the unmitigated wick and held the high, continued down. So as playing ranges, as far as it goes, it was a good move down. And obviously you could be looking at something like that, yes, on a Monday morning, calling that as the top wick of the week is very difficult. And then again, that adds another layer to how confident are you to trade that. If you're looking at something like this, you might have a 15 pip stop, you might only just be playing to the lows to be happy clearing that. You know, you're still catching the 3R. So I think any move that people took there was actually really good on Monday morning, and it made sense off the daily. We saw the daily close back below this breaker structure level, suggested we need to come into this daily POI. Obviously no buy moves really, as far as we were looking at this for the week. And then looking back, my positions that were set up here, it was almost a question of, well, was that ever going to come in? But we moved, we learned. So that was a good move. We go on to Tuesday, see what GU does on Monday. So here we go. We saw GU gap down, opening below the overall higher low. Trend transition point that I've got marked up on the daily. We wicked back into that same weekly level we had 2 previous weeks wicking into. Failed. But what we also did is we failed to close below that. So as far as this level goes, I'm still bullish on GU, which means this, potentially, this wick right here was not enough to come down. So yeah, as an idea, this may need to be induced. It ended up not getting induced, but we'll go through that in a minute. Tuesday, retest 104 again, failed to come up. Okay, are we still going to see price start breaking into this daily or not? If we don't, there's a higher chance to come deeper, maybe get the entry for the week. EU on Tuesday decided that it wants to carry on down. And once again, I say, compare these candles to these candles, how low the volume is. It's so slow. And as a higher time frame trader, where's the entry? There isn't none. It's very, very hard. And you just got to know when to stick out the market, because I'm trying to rush into a sell here or rush into a buy. There's no clear evidence that we're going to get any buys yet because we've broken structure, but we haven't seen the solid pullback to create the lower high. And that's whereas really for me, as soon as we get to this point, my higher time frame positions on EU that I had marked within here would be invalidated, because on the monthly, I want to see if we can hold this level. If we hold this level to end March, I may be looking at a retest and continued push to the highs going into next week and next quarter really, and the monthly time frame. As for that then, we see GU. Did we eventually break? No, we did carry on up. So at this point, we're seeing multiple further taps into this weekly. No real solid closures within it either. So we're so uncertain on GU. Going into Wednesday, we actually saw price start pushing up on DXY. So we pushed through and broke through the start of this daily POI, which is nice to see. I think at this point it looks like we're leaving 104, which maybe that was the retest for the week. EU on Wednesday come back into this POI. So in theory, my analysis played out. I was just not accounting for that being the top wick, which I can learn from. That pushed back into there. Obviously made me take my higher time frame trades off. At this point now, I don't really know what EU is going to do. I want to sell it, but until we get a lower high, not interested. If we bounce off this level and take the high out, you would look back and say all we were doing was weekly break and retest to carry on back to the upside and go to 110. As for GU, it started to look like we were going to come down, and we broke below previous weekly low. At that point, it's you're looking at further sells, and this is where I can imagine many traders on GU got caught out, because going into yesterday morning, Thursday, it was almost looking like GU was in a prime position for a sell. If we go to here, so what happened overnight is we saw news about tariffs come in, which in theory is good for the dollar. No, it was bad for the dollar. That was it. It was bad for the dollar. So this move ended up clearing down, and it continued throughout the day. The weakness in the dollar continued throughout the day. As a result of that, any ideas within this area, with these highs being respected, ended up making us not go down, and we ended up seeing price wick all the way up. So that was a tricky call. After seeing that, especially yesterday, I was liking the GU sells today. Obviously, again, I'm not going to trade it because it's not setting up, but I'm already starting to paint a picture of multiple issues at this. If we're going to see multiple issues at this, we're more likely to pull back into higher time frame POIs or the key level 128 to see upside. So yeah, it was unlucky. I feel like the moves yesterday for especially GU sells made sense. EU less so, because again, once I'm at the key level, I am interested. And what you can see from how important the key levels are is Thursday closed bullish. It broke yesterday's low on Wednesday, closed bullish and engulfed. And today's going back down again. But yeah, you don't really know what you're doing around this level. So I want to see how we finish the week. The XY in the end also, it's still sticking above 104, but that's a pretty weak closure. At the minute, you're seeing higher lows form, but you're also getting pullbacks. There's no clear high really made yet with solid bullish candles. EU, are you going to be looking for downside when you're right at this area? No, because if the monthly does hold above it, then I will be looking for further continuations, more than likely. But we'll see. We'll see how the week finishes and the month finishes. I think the most clear thing that I've been discussing is my uncertainty around the chart, which has made me stay out for the week, and that's the best thing you can do. Obviously, GU this morning has tapped back into that weekly again and started to come down a little bit. But again, you can see the uncertainty. I don't need to really say anything. Ever since this point, which was really, you're almost looking at last Thursday here. All prices done is bounce and consolidate within this area. So there is no options on GU. There's so much unclear price action that you're almost at this point creating a low, creating a high, creating a range. So price is ranging on GU. So yeah, the more wicks we get up into this area, the more likely we're going to come and take out this wick here from the 10th of March. But really just wait until price sets up. It's a little bit more obvious after the fact. I can't see the monthly closing above 130, and for that reason I believe at least going to get a pullback into 128, and then if we do test up, then we test up. If we break below, retest, and then get continued downside, then the sells also can make sense for the start of next month. But that's really it. Nothing too clear for the week. And if we look at the daily candles ever since zooming out, where's the good moves within that? Where's the good moves? I don't see anything. So yeah, wait until the price sets up a little bit better. That's when you're going to get the best options. Until then, sit out. Sit out and wait for it to happen, really. And that's if you can do that as a trader, you'll be better than off the 98% of other traders that rush in, take 2 hours, take 3 hours, and then wonder why, like I had this month, wonder why you're in drawdown for the month, because there hasn't been the greatest setups and you tried to get in. But yeah, guys, see you next week. Take care. Peace out.